Welcome to this Techies webinar. I am Sujit John, and I have with me my colleague Akhil George. The two of us will moderate this discussion that we are having in partnership with EY. Today, we will discuss how GenAI can transform the finance function. Ever since ChatGPT was launched in late 2022, everybody's been talking about and experimenting with GenAI solutions in a variety of areas. In the finance function too, GenAI is seen as a transformative opportunity for CFOs to enhance finance operations, streamline documentation processes, and significantly boost productivity. The technology can not only streamline routine tasks, but also empower finance teams to deliver more value-added insights and strategic guidance to the organization. To discuss this, we have with us two very senior and seasoned professionals. We have with us Aparna Iyer. Aparna is Chief Financial Officer at Wipro. Aparna joined Wipro in 2003 and over the years has held several finance roles, including internal audit, business finance, finance planning and analysis, corporate treasury, and investor relations. Most recently, she was Senior Vice President and CFO of Wipro Full Stride Cloud, leading finance operations for one of Wipro's fastest growing global business lines. Welcome, Aparna.
Hi.
And we also have Prashant Garg. Prashant is partner in technology consulting at EY India. He has over 13 years of experience in emerging technologies like Gen AI, metaverse, and crypto, and in digital transformation initiatives. Prashant leads many large-scale projects across sectors such as financial services, technology, media and telecom, FMCG, and pharma. Prior to EY, he was at IBM and Schneider Electric. Welcome, Prashant.
Thank you. Hello to everyone.
Those who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Sujit and I will put them to Aparna and Prashant. So why don't we start? Aparna, maybe you can help us understand how do you see generative AI transforming your role, the CFO's role, and the finance teams in the next, say, 5 years?
Thank you, and it's a pleasure.
How it's changing right now and then.
Sure. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be talking to all of you today. Well, I think, the role of finance has been transforming for the last 20 years since I've been working with Wipro, and we've seen how we've been, from a time when we used to struggle to grapple with scale and complexity, we've been using various tools and technology to be able to move from, manual controls and processes to something that's fully systemic and, that has helped us. So I think in some sense, we've been always readying ourselves for this leap of technology, which is generative AI. I think over the last several years, we've been looking at process automation, using RPA, looking at how we can, build bots that can help, automate routine processes. And we've been looking at how to use machine learning and, deep tech to kind of, look at seeing, how we can forecast information and, use predictive analytics, right? And in some sense, AI is a natural progression. We think AI will continue to augment everything that we've seen in the past few waves of technology, which is to, like you said, improve productivity, improve, risk management. I think one of the things that AI will help do, and it has like huge potential, is just enhance the risk management at scale. I think for a large organization like us, there are several processes where we would like to have the kind of risks management framework which can help agility of processes. And I think AI can play a huge role in that. In terms of just the user experience, again, things like how do you process reimbursements at scale? So therefore, AI can be used tremendously to just, handle query management, disseminate information, have, generative like AI for perhaps places where you're able to, let's say, tap into large contract databases that we have, large volume of SOWs. So your ability to, get data quicker and therefore drive insights and faster decision making, these are like places where we are seeing tremendous potential because of, AI. But like with every technology, you've got to kind of like, take small steps towards it. There are obviously certain risks that come associated with it, and therefore the entire value chain has to be kind of re-engineered, when you're adopting this kind of technology at scale. So we at Wipro are very, very focused on doing that through having a very responsible AI governance framework, and therefore, how do you, protect your data privacy, protecting IP infringement, and seeing how whether the end outcome has accountability and transparency. Those are, frameworks that we are putting in place. We've started a lot of proof of concepts. Like I said, the early results are very, very encouraging. So yes, I think like other technology waves, AI holds a promise and potential to be, the next big thing. And it's been a very organic process, like I said.
Yeah, lots of areas. So we'll ask you later on some of those specific things that you mentioned. But Prashant, you agree with what Aparna has said? Lots of these.
I absolutely agree with what Aparna said. What I see with AI is AI for finance. Basically, finance is made up of all kinds of tasks, and tasks are primarily around data entry, reconciliation, document processing, as was pointed out, that we have to look at lots of SOWs, contracts, invoices, etc. We need to produce a lot of reports as finance professional. A lot of commentary has to be written in national language. And then there's significant amount of analysis required on top of it. Then there is a budgeting and forecasting function which comes into play. All of this requires significant involvement of human eye, human effort, and time. And each of this, depending on the size of the organization, is done in bulk only. So if you're looking at an invoice processing function, they'll be processing millions of invoices in a year. Each invoice processing will take from a minute to several hours, depending upon the nature of the invoice. And it could be very complex to very simple, but it takes human time. And if we can solve that by replacing the human eye with generative AI, where we are not bothered about formats of invoices or where the data is written, it makes the task much simpler and better. And that's where we can say that we can read structured data, unstructured data, internal data, external data very quickly using generative AI. And we can process the actions which normally finance function takes, which is reconciliations, corrections, error identification, reporting, forecasting, and of course, being partnered with the business where they prepare reports, where they prepare analysis for the leaders. All this can be augmented with generative AI. One thing I would just say is generative AI at this point in time is very good co-pilot. So each of us in the finance function can be greatly enabled with the use of generative AI as a co-pilot, where if it is designed well, can solve specific work items for us and can make our task much easier and simpler. There would be a point in time in the future where we will have generative AI acting almost like an autopilot for us. And that would be the next frontier with generative AI and other AI components.
You must be working with a lot of clients. Give us a sense of, what some of them are experiencing. I guess many of them are still proofs of concepts and all that. And I don't know whether anything has scaled yet, but from your experience with clients, some areas which have made Gen AI has made a big difference.
I think if I just stick to the finance world, document processing, and I would say 3 kinds of document processing, which I'm still dealing with, considering we are also in a consulting organization, we also do a lot of it on our own, and I have my customers doing it. I think areas of contract processing and statement of work processing at scale, and
statement of
work or contracts processing at scale is a clear area where generative AI is hands down much superior than any other solution that we had available. ICR, OCR used to happen in the past where there was limitations around format. Each format had to be processed separately. Now, at this point in time, any format, any size of the document. With a bit of training and planning, we can get it done fairly easily and better. Yeah. And when we talk about, so say, let's take an example that we want to assess as a finance team, we want to assess a particular organization for credit worthiness before we onboard them into our accounts as a customer or as a supplier, for that matter. So we'll have to review their financial statement. We have to review their organization structure. We have to review their CIBIL record. We have to review their GST records. All of this is several sets of documents, say 20, 30 documents that would come, and a assessment officer or an expert will review them and figure it out. And it could take from a couple of hours to a couple of days to go through 20, 30 such documents. Planned well, this could be processed with generative AI in minutes, because we know exactly what to pull out. And generative AI doesn't need to be trained on the format and the structure from where the data is coming. Plus, it can seek inputs from both internal and external sources and structured and unstructured sources as well, equally well. So makes the task simpler and easier. What someone like me as a consultant has to do is to ensure that the pipe or the workflow for getting this done is designed well. So it essentially helps the finance professional or the finance team member to do this properly, rather than becoming an impediment in the process flow. So a workflow design, a good workflow design with generative AI can really simplify this. With the work I've done in the last 12 months with my clients, I've seen quite a bit of success with specifically document processing. And I would say I would have solved at least half a dozen use cases for my customers in all kinds of industries. I would say banking and financial services, CPG, and few other industries, where I've seen this really solving a problem for the customer and really reducing the effort it is taking to get the job done. And reducing effort is one part, but essentially solving the problem and improving the process, which really adds value to the organization.
Okay. You said document processing, is it?
Yeah, I just said document processing is one of the examples which we
So
can
give an example. I mean, what document would this be?
any kinds of documents. So I gave you the example of credit worthiness assessment. It would require to review your CIBIL report, your account statements, your balance sheet, your the structure of the organization, the ownership structure, all those things. So this all information comes through documents, and so all documents could be processed to produce a credit worthiness report. And data available on internet, your income tax filings, your GST filings, these are all available as inputs in a form of a document which you utilize.
Aparna, same thing. I mean, you mentioned multiple POCs and all that you're involved in. So which are seeing the best results?
Just like what Prashant said, I think places where you have structured data available, right? I think shared services, largely what we have seen is our ability to look at processes which are fairly matured and the data are structured. Your ability to use AI and generative AI solutions is much more easier. So to give you an example, invoice applications, where you have monies that are coming, the collections, how do they get applied to which invoice? You're able to kind of use low code, no code solutions for you to be able to do all these processes that would have taken a lot of human effort. So you're able to reduce human effort dramatically because the first level is done through these low code, no code, no code solutions. The other place we are looking at is any kind of reconciliations. You're talking about BRS, right? I think Prashant referred to about doing a credit check. I think these are things like where you have bots which are continuously looking at feeds that is there in the external data environment around credit ratings, adverse news, what's happening. You're able to throw those early warning alerts. So wherever the data is structured and where it's a repeat process very clearly articulated, what we are seeing is AI and generative AI will then enhance the process. It reduces the number of human eyes and also adds to better risk management. So where we are seeing clear use cases is certainly in the case of, like I said, shared services, accounting. Internal audit is another place where we've been able to really use AI at scale, because you're able to perhaps not just look at a sample, right? Earlier audits used to happen on samples. Now we're looking at 100% data coverage, because you're able to do that through the algorithms that you're able to drive. So again, risk management is another big place where we're able to use, including internal audit, where we are seeing successful implementation of our POCs. We're also looking at, areas of, let's say, where you want to, even during, let's say, an earnings season, you're able to put down the earnings of your clients, your peer group, and it gives you a wonderful summary of what's happening. How have some of your top clients shared in terms of, the last quarter results, what's working, what's not working, that just gets fed back into, the various, dashboards that our sales team use, including, keeping a close watch of what industry trends are happening. I think there are, perhaps even in contract metadata management, right? I think, like Prashant said, that's another place where we've been able to, use AI very effectively, right? To look at, various classes that we sign up with, our 1,300 clients with, like, 30,000 plus statement of work. So, you would want to know what kind of classes have you signed up, and your ability to query, search, benchmark, and also then, like you speak about generative AI, is like just content generation, right? We use that bit very carefully. I think in terms of just generating content, we are far more careful. I think there our interpretations are always going through a human in loop. But other than that, I think when it comes to internal policies, I think we've made a lot of progress, again, even in generative AI, where it's able to respond to your queries in natural language. So those are places where we are seeing a lot of progress over the last 12 months.
Aparna, maybe you can help us understand. You mentioned structured data before. Is the finance sector, does it produce a lot more structured data than other sectors? So is it more amenable to being disrupted by Gen AI more? Could you help us understand?
One would like to believe so, right? I think it certainly has great potential. However, even in finance, we all have large parts of our data in legacy systems with very different architectures that don't speak to each other. All of us are going through this journey where we are seeing how we can make them all compatible, speak to each other. I think quality of data, again, in a large, complex organization like us, we've got to continuously work on that and improve your quality of data. If you're able to resolve these two, I think then there is tremendous potential. And I wouldn't use the word disrupt. I would use a more positive word to say that we can really focus on what we are good at, which is, or what we would like to do. The quality of work that we would like to offer young chartered accountants who join us from campus will certainly improve. So it's something that we're looking forward to as finance professionals.
Same thing to Prashant. Aparna mentioned the legacy infrastructure side of it. Prashant, you also mentioned you need to design these systems well, the workflow design and all that. The legacy side of it, how much time does it take for somebody who's still has a lot of legacy systems to get on to use Gen AI and stuff?
I think so. To really understand what's the challenge with engaging with any legacy system, so it's only two. How do we integrate with the legacy system? Integration means how do we extract the information there is in legacy system, or how do we engage with the legacy system? And what is the data compatibility? Now, this is not anything specific for generative AI. Any transaction or any engagement with legacy systems comes with the same challenge. So whether I was doing RPA in the past or now doing generative AI or any kind of data restructuring or moving from a legacy system to a new system, it's the same challenge. So that challenge is always solved by understanding the old system, understanding how the data is kept, and then making ways and means to extract that information or to engage with the system as needed. Now, what has changed with generative AI is generative AI allows me to engage with structured data, which was always possible in the past. So generative AI allows me to engage with structured data much more easily. Generative AI allows me to engage with unstructured data in a much better fashion, because that was not possible in the past. So I can engage with a document, I can engage with an invoice, and I can engage with a purchase order, I can engage with a statement of work, I can engage with a 100-page contract, as if I'm engaging with a table or a database. So being able to engage with unstructured data has been made way easier by generative AI, which means my ability to appreciate how the data is kept in a legacy system, what are the linkages between data, how the data can be read, how the data can be interpreted, can be much easily done using generative AI than what was available in the past. So I would just in summary say, generative AI makes it easier for me to engage with legacy systems than it was possible in the past. So my ability to create pipes from legacy system into new systems or for generative AI, it's superior now. Of course, anything that we build has to be in a structured solution format so people can utilize in a workflow. And that takes its own effort. But engaging with legacy system is no more easier or difficult than it was in the past. It only improves because its ability to read unstructured data or data from external sources is much simpler or better with generative AI. Yeah.
Aparna, how much time did it take you? These legacy systems, you said it does create some issues. So what did you do to overcome that, and how much time did it take you?
So I think, what happens is, and you need to build these APIs that can help you bridge, different platforms, different legacy architectures. Also, I think data quality management is something that, it's a continuous process. You need to invest substantially into it. Having a good data lake is something that we've been investing in the last few years. I think, therefore, there are naturally some parts of the organization which are more amenable and faster and can make the jump into AI. Like I said, again, wherever the data is, not just the data is available, but also your processes are matured, it just yields very well into AI. Where you feel that, your data quality is an issue, then, I think it takes longer, and you've got to be far more careful of the outcomes they produce. So I think it's a process. It's not like, one size fits all, but like I said, there's tremendous potential. And
I'll just reiterate. So it's the challenges engaging with legacy systems are no different for generative AI than it was with any other thing.
yeah.
So we need to deal with them, and generative AI slightly makes it easier to understand data in a legacy system. But how to create an API, how to create a pipe remains the same.
Okay.
Maybe you can help us understand how has your productivity increased, or which function of your job has been really impacted by Gen AI? Personally, has it been very useful in saving your time? So, Aparna?
Yeah, certainly. I think productivity is something that is going up. You're able to do more with the same. I think that's the way we're looking at it. Right now, a lot of this is not at the scale at which you're able to kind of, let's say, measure an ROI or like to go out there and say this is the productivity. But I can certainly see productivity in the area of the number of people we have in our accounting teams or our internal audit teams, your ability to do more with less. You're able to handle more complexity, more number of subsidiaries, more work with the same number of people. And that's where I think, technology in general has been helping. Generative AI, I think there are varied opinions out there in terms of what kind of productivity it can produce. I think still early stages. For now, I think we're looking at it more from a standpoint of efficiency, user experience, and it's also in the face of this is something very exciting. And therefore, we like every part of the organization is experimenting with this technology. Eventually, of course, the productivity discussions will come into fore. But for now, I think we're able to handle more complexity, do more with the same number of people.
Prashant, same thing to you.
So I think if you divide the finance function into three clear areas, so there is transaction processing, there is performance management, which is where the reporting happens, so the planning budgeting happens, and then there is business partnering. That's, I believe, loosely we can divide finance organization into. Clearly, in the world of transaction processing, which is about transaction processing, reconciliations, and error correction, the opportunity with generative AI to simplify these tasks and make them work with lesser human effort, which means what Aparna said earlier is improve the quality of work rather than disrupt. So giving people the real task where there's a problem, where a human needs to put an eye to correct something, but essentially perform these tasks in an automated fashion with generative AI and some auto automation will is a real game changer. When I look at the middle part, which is where performance management comes, especially financial reporting, there is a lot of scope where we can do financial reporting, simplify financial reporting in terms of how we can kind of create reports itself, use natural language processor to write commentary around it, and essentially analyze internal, external data both. See, a lot of reporting is internal nature, where we look at only the financial records and produce what we call as lagging KPI information, but a lot of indicative information comparing external information. So like you want to compare Wipro with three of its counterparts, how we do that. I don't need to go about making their balance sheets look exactly the same in the same format I can compare. I can just tell in generative AI, look at the Wipro balance sheet and three of these and give me an analysis or give me a comparative view, which becomes much easier. Otherwise, there would be a person from finance team looking at all four of them, creating an Excel file, typing them out, preparing it, and perhaps it will take 2 days before Aparna will come back and say, fine, you prepared a good report or a bad report. But something like this with generative AI would get out in a few minutes. Just say, oh, look at Infosys, look at TCS, look at Wipro, and produce a comparative, and they would be a comparative in a few minutes.
So this is already possible. It's already people are doing it.
That's fairly easily possible. Again, as I said earlier, for any of these things to work properly, we need to create a workflow so that people can consume this in their day-to-day work. The other thing is around error detection and correction. So a human eye can do a lot of error detection correction, but it is slow. With generative AI, my ability to find anomalies, find comparative numbers is much better and faster. So I can do a much better view of error detection correction. It may not be 100%, but nothing is 100%. So even if I can get 80-90% of the work done faster, then the core team can focus on the remainder 10% and ensuring the quality exists. So again, it's a very good co-pilot. And in the future, we'll have generative AI reaching a point where it would be autopilot for us.
Okay, so this data correction, okay, so most of it is the Gen AI will figure out the balance, then manually somebody will still have to look at it to kind of.
So I would say it's a co-pilot, and over a period of time, it will reach a place where it can be autopilot. But it's like having a new team member who we explain. So see, I had a new team member in my finance team. I tell them, this is your financial reporting requirement. This is how you produce report. This is how you bring the balance sheets and P&Ls of 10 organizations together and create a consolidated report. The individual learns in 6 months, gets trained, and starts producing this. Similarly, when we start using generative AI, we get some answers, but then we kind of fine tune it to make it better. And over a period of time, the accuracy level will reach a point that we'll not need to worry about looking at it.
But now you said you're wary of using it for generating things. What can you explain that?
So, like Prashant said, right, today, if you have to, like, your disclosures, the 20F filings that we do, there is tremendous potential for generative AI to summarize your financials in a natural language, in a free text, right? So, if you put together 2 periods of, financials into a particular generative AI platform or tool, it should be able to tell you what should be able to suggest what your disclosures should be. It should be able to put together a set of financials, especially if you can feed in, let's say, last 10 years of your filings into it. Now, these are all like tremendous potential. Like Prashant alluded to, error detection, proofing, creating the first round of what the suggested text of your disclosures could be or your accounts should be. I think all of that can come. So we should look at AI like the new apprentice in the team, like Prashant said. But we will have to look at it with a lot of care and caution. Like I said, we're very wary of tools and platforms that are not built in-house. There are security concerns. You don't want to be having your team using this kind of generally available tools and putting some data that they shouldn't be. So you've got to be very careful in terms of how you use, what methodology you use. And we're a listed company with a certain level of care and caution that needs to be exercised. So every outcome, at least till we know, will need to have a human in loop. So perhaps the quality of the teams that you will eventually have in the end state, and that could take maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I think depends on how quickly machines can learn, how robust are your platforms that you build, how much data are you able to feed. But it is indeed a possibility that you are able to cut down on the time, you're able to reduce human effort, but at the same time, perhaps your configuration of your end teams change. You need to perhaps have a team with a different kind of skill sets. You may want to have the pyramids of your teams could change. These are all things that one has to think of in terms of what's going to happen in the medium term, what's going to happen in the long term. But yes, everything that Prashant alluded to today is certainly a possibility. Is this already being done at scale? I think there are certain pockets of it which are being done well, better. The others are still, early days, and but it's learning quickly. I think the progress we've made in the last 12 months tells me that we'll have a lot more coming in the next 12.
Learning quickly.
I think the word that I will add is reinforce human learning. So whenever we
reinforce
human learning. So whenever we create a solution using generative AI in between, we also add an ability to add learnings from the human. So a good or a bad answer, a score to the answer, and then store those answers to create better answers in the next round of events. So say, as Aparna said, 10 years of data. So if we have 10 years of data and 6 months of reinforced learning with the same team teaching the apprentice, the Gen AI apprentice, then the Gen AI apprentice will become smarter and better in its task much faster.
Akhil? Akhil, you muted.
The audit process is a big deal, right? Do you guys see Gen AI improving this?
You muted, Akhil.
Oh, sorry. The audit process, maybe you can help us understand. It involves a lot of human effort, right? Now, will AI change that workflow for organizations preparing for audits? Will it help flag issues in real time in a more reliable manner?
Yeah, so I'll just answer this. So I have seen a lot of Gen AI solutions being built by our teams, internal audit team. I sit in data analytics practice. I have left doing audit many years ago, but I have been engaging with our assurance team and our internal audit team, and there's a lot of solutions we have been building which focus on essentially optimizing the way we perform audit. One of the key things that it is doing for us, it is one of the most important tasks when we start doing audit is we do an audit plan of what we will audit. And audit plan is as good as the individual who's going to write the audit plan. Now that individual may have conducted this audit several times, so maybe just repeating what he or she might have done, or that audit individual or the person who's going to conduct the audit has just been from a different industry, so has a very different perspective, which he or she is going to bring to the audit. So what we are able to do now is creating this audit plan by looking at the recent past audits and the challenges we have seen in similar or dissimilar places. We can look at this and assimilate what audit we should be conducting this time. Okay, so we can have a much detailed and a better audit plan. We can plan tasks around it. So it helps us do audit planning, because one person cannot have knowledge of every audit that has been conducted and learn from it. So I can learn from hundreds of audits which have been conducted by different teams, and I can still perform the audit which I have been doing with much better point of view, because I'm now gaining information from every other place. As an individual, I won't be able to read those 100 reports. But if I'm able to read 100 reports using generative AI, then my audit plan will automatically become much better. I can do continuous monitoring, which is something which Aparna mentioned earlier. My ability to read content in natural language becomes easier. So it's just not about structured data, but I can also now audit unstructured data. Like I can audit contracts better. I can audit the state. I can audit the various legal documents that may have been written, leases that may have been taken. We can audit them much easily. A lease document could be 5 pages to 500 pages and takes effort and time to review them. It could be done much easily using generative AI, because I know what exactly I'm looking for, and I can ask generative AI to go about looking in a 500-page document and find it for me. It's not easy to do it otherwise. So essentially, flagging of issues, quality of data, better algorithm accuracy, with a bit of human oversight, improves the overall audit outcome with the use of generative AI. And what we are doing right now in EY is we're building a workflow solution around performing, say, internal audit. So from a point in time, we start the audit where we do the planning to producing an audit report. It's all getting structured in the tool. And what it would do is at each component level, it would also allow various teams which perform audit. So someone may be performing audit for A company, B company, C company, different companies. I can bring knowledge from all of that to plan, but then also conduct and produce output at each level, which will then help me at the next step, which otherwise is very human dependent on the individual performing the audit. And any audit team would have 3, 4, 5 people or 10 people performing the audit. But in our organization, we've got hundreds, I would say thousands of people going and performing audits. And each of that knowledge is not always available to each of us, because we are performing our jobs at different places at the same time. But this will make it easier for us to get this information and be much smarter when we plan our audits in the future.
Now, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think very, very similar in terms of experience. Internal audit in Wipro is at perhaps the front and center of adopting AI. That's one of the places where we had our earliest successes. We have something called as a proactive risk intelligence unit, which is a very small team but produces the most amount of reports and risk and early warnings to various process owners. Your ability to continuously monitor certain processes, outliers, which are then flagged for further investigation is much higher and superior. Your ability to look at algorithms to run on large sets of data over large period of time, I think is really revolutionizing the way we are able to use internal audit for various aspects, right? Two, I think just for a new auditor, like Prashant said, again, there is a wealth of information available with every audit report that can be read through this generative AI assistant tool, right? All of this is on our AI 360 platform that we use. which is a platform that's built by Wipro internally for its use. And it does wonders for query management, for looking at, what kind of risks are there in a particular process, what should the auditor be looking at, what were the previous issues, which were the high risk areas, what are the data sets one should look at, what is the latest process. So you've got a wealth of information for the auditor, which would have perhaps taken in an earlier time and space, like, with the churn of auditors, it would have really been difficult. But I think the learning curve is faster. The method and approach to audit is far more comprehensive. The efficiency of the audit team has gone up quite significantly as a result of this. Apart from that, just your ability to, again, add back to the business, right? How can then internal audit also become enabling? That entire focus becomes that, because the basic work is done. And you're able to really work through in terms of recommendations, implementation, and overseeing post-implementation audits. So yeah, I think tremendous benefit through AI.
So if you see in my world, if I'm an audit partner or tax partner, my value comes from the quality of work I've done in the past, and number of audits or number of tax filings that I have done or number of tax challenges that I've dealt with makes me smarter. So if I'm someone who's doing it for 25 years, I'll have more knowledge than the person who's been doing it for 5 years. What it will do, it will make my newer chartered accountants who are joining the audit practice or the tax practice get to the same level of knowledge, because he or she would be able to learn from the knowledge of the other partners who have been working this space for years together, which otherwise you only learn with hard work and spending time in the field. This makes it much easier, because I can now learn from every internal audit report that has been written in the last 20 years by EY, which otherwise, if I want to learn on my own, I would be spending all my nights for the next 10 years reading every report that has been ever written.
Fascinating. Aparna, who asked you? You said be careful about the. I mean, how much did you do internally? How many external tools did you use? You said you need to be careful about all of these things. So how did you go about it?
I think, we have a responsible AI governance unit, which is a cross-functional team, oversees data privacy, the methodologies that you're using. I think any tools that you're using from an external vendor, you need to be very sure in terms of, how is the data, proprietary data that's being shared? Is that in a secure environment? Is it in compliance with all the data privacy regulations that are there, including GDPR and others, right? So it has to be very carefully overseen. The content that gets generated, how you use it, and again, needs to go through a whole lot of regulatory and statutory checks. Therefore, it is advisable that you have a team that oversees this, which can oversee the life cycle of the design and of the platform and the tool that you're using. And of course, the outcomes. When you are producing certain outcomes, especially, I think explainability is very key. The source that you display is very, very key. Those are things that we've kept in mind even for internal use. We want to make sure that every time there is a response that's put out to a query of a policy or anything that's being suggested, a source is indicated saying this response is generated from this particular document. So the person consuming that response can always double click and check, indeed it is. So a lot of what we do as finance for non-finance, or how do we want a delivery manager or a salesperson to interpret a certain accounting standard to be able to then structure a contract or a clause with a client. If you want to enable those kind of things, you've got to do it with a lot of safeguards. And I think that's why you're taking your time to say, where do you want to go live and what will you look for another 6 months? Make sure it's giving you the absolute right answers. So like I said, simpler policies, your own policies, and much easier for the machine to interpret, something that's more contextual. And I think that, let's say, even within, we don't want a larger organization who doesn't understand finance effectively to be able to use and implement it on their own. So there are areas which we've put out there as saying, yes, we can. And these are areas where we don't want that interpretation. So looking at what you want to do and then how you approach it, and then you follow the process before you take it live. I think these are very, very important safeguards that we keep in mind every time we are adopting or building AI into our own processes. And
but you also use some of these proprietary, or do you?
Yes, we have our own platform, the AI 360 platform, that we use quite a lot for us to build some of what I've just shared with you. And there are also, external tools that we use quite a bit. So
like
it's
what?
a combination. I think Microsoft Copilot is something that we are all very, very, using quite well. And several others, I don't want to I think there is we partner extensively with one of our investee companies in the Wipro Ventures, which is Cognitos. I spoke about low code, no code solutions. We work, we've got an ecosystem of players, including some of the strategic alliances with whom we work and use their AI products quite a bit. We've got this venture investee companies who are also into the space of AI. We use them quite a bit for, the chat bots and how you're using a conversational natural language processing, tool. We, like I said, use Cognitos, which is a low-code, no-code solution for reconciliation, building these processes. So I think there are many tools. We work in an ecosystem and we're dipping into all aspects, So, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we can look at how Gen AI is going to affect finance professionals now in the future. It is quite a high-paying, lucrative career, right? So how should these professionals now stay up to?
Until you again got muted.
Well, what are the skilling requirements? Who wants to go for Prashant?
Prashant?
Yeah, I think struggle to hear what you asked, but if you can.
No, the skilling.
Yeah, finance. You're getting muted automatically, Akhil.
Sorry, that's another.
Basically, skilling your finance professionals now that there's Gen AI available. How should they be looking at their careers?
I think what is changing is the career level suddenly changes. So 20 years, 25 years ago, when I qualified and I started, the skill to carry was, if you knew Excel, you were God, technically.
Right.
And so that was the way it was. And thankfully, I knew Excel. So whenever I would walk into the office, people would say, "Oh, can you create my Excel sheet? Can you put my formula? Can you write a small macro for me?" So everyone loved me for that reason. And I was 21, 22 years old, getting all the attention because I had one small skill called Excel those days. And that was perhaps the best skill to have those days. Now, Excel is something which comes handy with every chartered accountant who comes in. What we need to do differentially with our people is help them understand that it's not about you doing transaction processing and learning the ropes of becoming or growing within the finance organization step by step. You actually start more like a manager rather than a worker to begin with, or rather than a person who's going to start learning from document processing and data processing and transaction processing. But you start almost being a manager who starts engaging in producing financial reports, or kind of engaging with the business leaders to provide them the right insights into the business. And their ability to understand technology slightly at the deeper end, understand how these various components of generative AI and AI work, having a bit of knowledge about, I would say, at least Python would be extremely useful. but their ability to qualify themselves from what would have earlier taken 5 years, starting as a junior professional in the finance team to becoming a manager, they almost should be ready to start as a manager as soon as they join. And that's where their ability to consume these tools to perform their tasks is the key for them to jumpstart their careers. Because these menial tasks will be done by the automation that would be offered by a combination of digital technologies. One of them is generative AI. And for them to do a better job for their careers or for betterment of their careers, they have to literally start what I was able to do here in my 5th and 6th year of career. Now they have to start in the 1st year of their careers. So that training has to be imparted for them to utilize these tools so they can jumpstart their careers rather than allow themselves that 5 years of luxury of learning the ropes by doing the tasks on their own. So doing is going away, and using that doing is the key, and get that doing done by these tools is coming in. So that's the change that people need to have.
But now, what are you telling your teams?
I think it's very. I couldn't agree more with Prashant. I think Excel is no longer just a basic skill for you to have. What we are doing is that the young chartered accountants we hire from campus, we have put them through a 2-year program where we help them bridge between academics to this world, right? Where they're expected to have, perhaps in the newer world when AI is firmly in, the jobs at the bottom of the pyramid, like Prashant alluded to, the freshers will need to have a jump start. Right now, I don't think they have it, right? So when they join us, we help them bridge. So we do help them go through a basic course on Python. We help them, get more tuned to being just data literate. How do you interpret the data? How do you produce insights? I think what will be very, very, in addition to what Prashant said, what will be very important for finance professionals to have is the ability to have critical thinking, right? The ability to have higher EQ, your ability to, partner strategically more on the front of business. I think those then will become the expectations from a young finance professional, saying how quickly can you get there? So what we've got to do is help build that bridge, which is what we do through this 2 formative years. We offer them 2 rotations, get them introduced to the various tools and technology and framework, put them through a basic course, and at the same time, help them build these skills. I think that's where, what our program of how we hire and how we induct talent becomes very, very critical. And I think we are constantly thinking on how do you improve that process, right? Understanding generative AI, I think, is very, very key. We've got a basic generative AI course that every employee in the company needs to go through, right? To just understand what it means, what aspects it has. But as and when the newer and newer people are coming in, you're going to be able, you have to get them onboarded into what you're already doing. Like Prashant said, how do they understand the basics of the technology? They need to understand the basic assumptions, right? Because what the vitality that will come from them is how do they challenge these assumptions? How do they build these variables? So it's going to be tougher for the younger lot who are coming in because they need to be, like Prashant said, managers. How do you help them get there, right? I think that's where we are focused on. It's going to be a bridge. It's going to take some time, but we'll all get there.
Okay.
Technically, it's a jump start to the career, and some will take it, some will struggle. But us as people who are going to hire the next set of people from college, will have to help people understand that career would not give them 5 years of luxury to learn that EQ or learn how to business partner. But they have to almost start doing it from day one.
So really have to fast track. Okay. There's a question from the audience, which some of course, you answered in some ways, but there's Nitin Jain asking, what challenges should organizations be prepared for when adopting AI in their finance function?
I think accountability, right? Tomorrow, if for whatever reason the outcome of an AI is wrong, who's accountable for it, right? I think these are important questions one needs to answer. The other big challenge, even before we get to accountability, is just how do you change the mindset? I don't think while we are all talking about it, there are, I think in the last 12 months, there have been enough panel discussions, and almost in every discussion, the topic is how is AI going to transform? I think we are talking a lot about it, but I think the general sentiment is, well, it's happening, but it's not for me, not now. I think the mindset change and the mindset shift is one of the biggest challenges, apart from everything else that we have spoken about, right? Data, legacy, architecture, how can you do it? How do you prioritize? There is obviously the ROI discussion, which will come in at some point. But I think biggest is how do you change the mindset? Especially we spoke about it saying, how do you get the young professionals to say this is real? The faster you get yourself equipped, the better. And then those are the middle. How do you challenge them and shake them? They're used to the older ways of working, right? How do you tell them that Excel is not a solution? And some will shape up, some will not. Those, I think, would be the real challenges in the medium term. But once AI is fully, there, I think the question is who's accountable, right? How do you keep that matrix? What are the solutions we have around that? Yeah, I think those are some very critical.
Change and accountability. Yeah. Prashant?
I think we used the word co-pilot several times. So if you stick to the fact that AI is our co-pilot, and there would be a CFO who would finally sign up to the financial statement and everything that gets published, it brings back to the same thing, responsibility and accountability. And there's significant work as Wipro has done around responsible AI. We have also done. And the focus on ensuring that we build whatever we build has responsibility, responsible guardrails pre-built into every solution that we're going to use within the organization. So people don't fall into the trap of not knowing, but some of that is done through the pre-work that has been done to ensure that there are right amount of guardrails to protect us. And then the rest is done by ensuring that people understand that it's a co-pilot, which will help them perform the task better. But at the end of the day, going back to my first example, creditworthiness assessment. So while AI can do that assessment for you, it is for you to sign up and say, yes, this assessment was good and useful. So while it can improve the speed at which the assessment is done, and perhaps you can see some aspects of assessment which you would have missed with your naked eye, you still get an assessment report and you need to sign it off. So responsibility and accountability with the right amount of guardrails pre-built by the organizations are key to utilizing this in the finance function.
No, very true. Mindset change, of course, like if you mentioned, absolutely. Even in our organization, we can see that. I mean, we're beginning to introduce some of these tools, and initially skepticism. Why I'm already doing better than these tools. But of course, as these tools are getting better, I think there's more and more consensus that we have to use them, and things are becoming easier for us. Mindset change, and like you said, in your function, particularly accountability is. I mean, for all of us, but finance, particularly accountability, is so important, which is where the
human in loop is so vital. Yeah.
So vital. Yeah. So we're almost out of time, but a final message to CFOs around India, Prashant and Aparna. What is your message with Gen AI? I mean, phenomenal tool, very powerful. What's your message to CFOs in India?
I'd say, so it's very akin to, I would say, having a lawnmower. So you can have a lawnmower and you can cut the grass in your garden, or you can have a lawnmower to build a $3 trillion sports industry. So it's all possible with one tool called lawnmower. So similarly, generative AI can be utilized to read some documents and do Q&A chat and write an email, or ask generative AI to send you some jokes or whatever people do with generative AI. But the potential to utilize generative AI in a workflow to solve business problem is significant and tremendous. And that's where we should utilize it. So the potential is vast, and it is for us to utilize it in solving business problems.
Phenomenal tool. Yeah, Aparna?
I think, the risk is sometimes we overestimate the impact of a technology in the near term and underestimate the impact of the same technology in the long term. And I think that's what you need to watch out for. While it may not look like something that's going to be really changing the shape of future in the next 12 months, 24 months, but it most certainly will. And I think the first mover advantage would be those who are adopting it, who are participating in it, and who are looking at and imagining how the function should be, 3 to 5 years from now, and working through it with it. So I think that's what I would say, that adopt it.
Adopt it. There's a big first mover advantage in adopting Gen AI. Thanks a lot, Prashant, Aparna. Really nice having you on this platform. I'm sure there'll be a lot more discussions, and we'll be looking forward to the kind of most of you said. I mean, scaling, of course, will take time for some of these things. It'll be really interesting to see metrics around it, to see the kind of ROIs they are delivering and the metrics of benefits and all of that. Maybe a year down the line or 2 years down the line, we'll have some really great metrics. Looking forward to that. Thanks a lot, Aparna.
Thank you.
Nice having you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.